Give me 15 minutes and I'll improve your focus for life. The reality is that if you can't focus for more than 45 minutes without getting distracted, you'll never build something big in your life. Because your ability to focus is directly related to how successful you are. And unfortunately, today's society is spending billions of dollars to brainwash you and keep you lazy and distracted. But what if I told you that your inability to maintain deep focus isn't a discipline problem, but instead a neurological problem? In fact, there's a specific neurological hack that separates the ultra-wealthy with everyone else. And in the next 15 minutes, I'm going to show you how to rewire your attention span so you can outwork 99% of people effortlessly. Most people think focus is about willpower or discipline, but that's completely wrong. You see, your brain runs on chemistry and not motivation. In fact, there are two master chemicals that control whether you feel sharp and focused or foggy and distracted. And if these chemicals are out of balance, no amount of discipline will save you. The first chemical is something that most people associate with the gym, but it's actually the foundation of mental performance. Testosterone. Testosterone isn't just about building muscle. It's the neurochemical that makes hard work feel rewarding instead of painful. If your testosterone is low, even the simplest tasks feel like you're trying to move mountains. If it's optimized, hard work becomes as addictive as scrolling on Instagram. But modern living has destroyed men's testosterone levels. A study published in the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology and Metabolism found that the average man today has 40% lower testosterone levels than men in the 1970s. And this isn't just affecting your physique, it's actually destroying your mental performance, focus, and drive. Here's what most people don't know. Testosterone is primarily produced during REM sleep. If you're not getting enough REM sleep, you're literally starving your brain of its primary focus fuel. In a study at the University of Chicago, researchers tracked healthy young men and restricted their sleep to just 5 hours a night. And within only a week, their testosterone levels dropped by about 10 to 15%. The kind of drop you would otherwise expect to see from aging 10 to 15 years overnight. The problem is that most people think that 8 hours in bed equal to 8 hours of sleep, but you actually need 9 hours in bed to get 8 hours of actual sleep because there are phases of your sleep that you're naturally awake throughout the night. And here's the kicker. REM sleep happens mostly in the last few hours of your normal sleep cycle. So when you cut your sleep short, you're cutting out the exact phase that produces your focus chemicals. So to optimize your sleep for maximum testosterone release, you need consistent sleep and wake up times with a proper wind down routine. This means that for 9 out of 10 days, go to bed and wake up at the exact same times and create a wind down routine starting from about 2 hours before bed. What you want to have is dim lights, no screens, cool temperature, meaning between 65 to 68 degrees Fahrenheit, and your bedroom should be pitch dark and completely silent. The second part of the testosterone trifecta is frequent exercise. You need strength training 2 to 4 times a week, focusing on compound movements like squats, deadlifts, and press movements. A study in the European Journal of Applied Physiology found that compound movements like squats and deadlifts produce the largest acute testosterone response compared to isolation exercises. These movements recruit the most muscle mass and trigger the largest testosterone response. But here's what most people miss. You also need 150 to 200 minutes of zone 2 cardio per week. Zone 2 is the intensity where you can still hold a conversation, but you feel slightly out of breath. This improves your cardiovascular system, which helps testosterone reach the androgen receptors in the brain more efficiently. And the third part is optimal diet. You need to maintain relatively low body fat levels between 10 to 15%. This is important because when your body fat gets too high, it increases an enzyme called aromatase, which converts your precious testosterone into estrogen, resulting in lower testosterone levels. But you also need adequate amounts of dietary fats. You want to aim for 25 to 30% of your calories from healthy fats because your body needs cholesterol to produce testosterone. And also make sure you're getting testosterone production promoting nutrients like zinc from red meat and oysters, magnesium from dark leafy greens, boron from avocados, dates, and raisins, and vitamin D from sunlight or supplementation. But testosterone is just the foundation because there is a second hormone that's even more powerful for laser sharp focus, and it's called DHT. You see, DHT is testosterone's more buff cousin, and it's what separates entrepreneurs who can focus for 6 hours straight from those who get distracted every 10 minutes. While testosterone gives you drive and motivation, DHT gives you that razor sharp mental clarity and sustained focus. It's the difference between wanting to work and being able to concentrate without distractions. The problem is that your everyday life is destroying your body's ability to convert testosterone into DHT. Daily stress, inflammatory foods, and environmental toxins all suppress the enzyme that makes this conversion happen. And to optimize your DHT levels, you need to maximize your testosterone first. You see, DHT is produced by an enzyme called 5-alpha reductase that converts testosterone into DHT. ADHD. So having a strong testosterone baseline from the previous trifecta is essential because you simply can't convert what you don't have. Second, you need to support 5-alpha reductase activity. This enzyme is what actually does the conversion, and you need to optimize it with specific nutrients. Zinc at 15 to 30 milligrams daily, magnesium at 400 to 600 milligrams daily, and here's the game changer: creatine monohydrate at around 5 grams daily. In a trial published in the Clinical Journal of Sports Medicine, researchers followed a group of college rugby players who went through a classic creatine loading phase, 25 grams per day for a week. And the results was that after just 7 days, the athletes showed a 56% spike in DHT during the loading phase, and their levels remained about 40% higher than baseline even during the maintenance period where they're taking 5 grams per day. But you also need to avoid things that block this enzyme. Stay away from trendy things like saw palmetto, nettle root, and pumpkin seed extract. These are commonly found in prostate health supplements, but they directly lower DHT production, decreasing your energy, drive, and focus. Third, you need to lower chronic stress and inflammation. Cortisol dominance and systemic inflammation blunt androgen signaling and suppress 5-alpha reductase activity. This means stress management through daily meditation or breath work like box breathing, following an anti-inflammatory diet with minimal processed foods, and supplementing with omega-3s at 2 to 3 grams daily, curcumin at 500 grams daily, and vitamin D at 2000 to 4000 IU daily. But unfortunately, even if you have your hormones on lock, there's also this one survival chemical in your brain which is still blocking you from focusing. It's called dopamine. Everyone thinks that dopamine is the feel-good chemical, but it's actually your brain's motivation and drive system. It's what makes you want to do something again and again and again. But the problem is that if you use your computer, your phone, and social media to work, your dopamine system has been completely hijacked. Tech companies spend billions of dollars studying how to manipulate your dopamine. Every app notification, every social media scroll, and every quick dopamine hit is designed by teams of neuroscientists to keep you addicted to distraction and away from productivity. Former Google ethicist Tristan Harris revealed that tech companies employ the same psychological techniques used in casinos. Variable reward schedules that trigger dopamine release unpredictably, making the behavior more addictive. You see, your brain evolved to release dopamine when you did things that helped you survive, like finding food, building shelter, or solving problems. But in today's world, you can get massive dopamine hits from doing absolutely nothing productive. Scrolling TikTok or checking your email inbox, then completing an important project that adds extra zeros to your bank account balance. So your brain starts to prefer the easy dopamine over the hard-earned dopamine. This is why you can binge watch Netflix for 6 hours with no issues, but struggle to focus on important work for more than 30 minutes. So the first step to reclaiming your dopamine system isn't to go cold turkey, but to do a dopamine reset. Your motivation levels fluctuate throughout the day like waves in the ocean, but most people create artificial waves by constantly seeking stimulation, checking their phones, opening new tabs, and switching between tasks. Each time you seek stimulation, you create a dopamine spike followed by a crash. The more spikes you create, the lower your baseline levels of motivation become. So what you need is to reset that baseline, which will as a result make you excited to do the boring things that move the needle forward in your business and life. The first step to resetting your dopamine is to enter what's called observation mode. Every time you give in to a distraction, you're strengthening the neural pathways that make you distractible. But every time you resist a distraction, you're building what neuroscientists call cognitive control networks. The observation mode technique leverages neuroplasticity to rewire your attention. You want to keep a notepad with you every time you're working. And every time you feel the urge to check your phone, open a new tab, or get distracted, you want to simply make a tally mark instead of giving in. This simple act does 3 key things. First, it creates awareness. You become conscious of how often your brain seeks distraction. Second, it interrupts the automatic pattern. The pause between urge and action creates space for choice. And third, it rewires the habit loop. Through neuroplasticity, you're literally changing your brain's default response to distraction triggers. But awareness alone won't fix a depleted dopamine system, because you need to actively eliminate the biggest source of your dopamine addiction. You see, your phone is the single biggest destroyer of your ability to focus. And until you fix the way you utilize it during the day, no amount of hormone optimization will save you. Here's what most people don't realize. Your phone isn't just distracting you when you use it, but it's actually rewiring your brain to crave distractions even when it's not around. Every notification, every buzz, every time you reach for your phone, you're training your brain that instant gratification is more rewarding than sustained focus. So what you need to do is to optimize your phone usage for peak productivity productivity and zero distractions. The way you do that is, first of all, no phone in the first and last hour of the day. These times are when your brain is most neuroplastic and when you can create the strongest new neural pathways. Charge your phone in a completely different room overnight and use a traditional alarm clock instead. The second rule is no phone and social media during work breaks or while eating meals. Your brain naturally seeks stimulation during these transition periods. Instead of feeding it digital dopamine, train it to be comfortable with boredom by going for walks, stretching, or simply sitting quietly. The third rule is no phone, music, or social media in the gym. You see, exercise increases something called BDNF, which enhances your neuroplasticity. And combining this with dopamine fasting amplifies this brain rewiring effect. And the fourth rule is no music while working. Now, this might sound extreme, but music competes with your brain's attention resources. Silence allows for deeper focus and trains your brain to find satisfaction in the work itself rather than external stimulation. Now that you've eliminated the biggest dopamine trap, you need to understand how to strategically manage your remaining dopamine sources. You see, the goal isn't to eliminate all dopamine, but it's to be strategic about when and how you use it. Think of dopamine like a daily budget. Every stimulating activity, coffee, music, social media, even intense conversations, withdraws from that budget. Most people blow their entire dopamine budget on low-value activities and then wonder why they have no motivation for important work. But high performers understand dopamine stacking. Instead of combining multiple high dopamine activities at once, they spread them out strategically throughout the day. And look, if you're an entrepreneur trying to optimize your health, focus, and productivity to the max to make more money and get more done in less time, then click the first link in the description where I show you how we can build you a custom plan to get more done in 1 month than most people do in a year. For example, if you're going to drink coffee, don't also listen to stimulating music or check social media at the same time. Pick one dopamine source per activity. If you're doing focused work, which in and of itself spikes your dopamine, eliminate all other dopamine sources. No music, no notifications, and no multitasking. This allows your brain to focus 100% of its resources on the task at hand instead of spreading your focus across multiple activities. Save your highest dopamine activities for after you've completed your most important work. This creates a natural reward system that trains your brain to associate productivity with satisfaction. The key is maintaining what I call dopamine discipline, being intentional about every source of stimulation in your environment so that your brain learns to find deep work as engaging as scrolling social media. Now that you've optimized your brain's reward system, you need a framework to direct all of that new motivation and drive toward what actually moves your life forward and makes you more successful. Because look, I've seen a lot of high achievers with perfect hormone levels and a dialed-in dopamine system that still struggle with focus because they don't have clarity on what deserves their attention. Without a clear system for prioritizing your focus, your brain will default to whatever feels most urgent or interesting in the moment, which is usually busy work that doesn't actually matter. And this clear system is what's called attention drivers. Your brain has limited processing power, and every unfinished task or random thought is using up valuable mental resources that should be dedicated to focused work. Psychologists call this cognitive load. It's like having 20 browser tabs open in your mind at all times, and each one is slowing down your mental performance. Dr. David Allen, founder of the Getting Things Done methodology, found that the average knowledge worker has more than 150 open loops, meaning unfinished commitments stored in their head, creating constant mental drag. The solution is to get everything out of your head and into a trusted external system. To achieve this, set 30 minutes aside every Sunday and write down absolutely everything that's taking up mental space. Work projects, personal tasks, commitments, ideas, things you need to buy, people you need to see. Don't organize or prioritize during this phase. Just dump everything onto paper or into a digital system. Throughout the week, whenever a new task or idea pops into your head when you're working, immediately capture it into a designated notebook or app. This literally takes 5 seconds and prevents the thought from renting space in your mind. This cognitive offloading frees up massive amounts of mental energy that can now be dedicated to deep, focused work instead of trying to remember everything. But what's more important than knowing what to do is also knowing when is the best time to do it. Most people waste their peak mental energy on decision making instead of execution. Every morning, they spend precious cognitive resources figuring out what to work on instead of actually working. Research from Chris Bailey shows that planning your day the night before eliminates this decision fatigue and allows allows you to immediately enter focused work mode. You want to spend 10 to 15 minutes before bed reviewing your priorities and selecting the 3 most important tasks for tomorrow. Then schedule these tasks during your natural peak performance windows. For most people, these are the first 4 to 6 hours after waking, when your stress hormones and neurotransmitters are optimally balanced for focus. Time block your entire day, including meals, breaks, and transition periods. This eliminates hundreds of micro decisions throughout the day and ensures your best mental energy goes towards your highest leverage activities. But if you're not ruthlessly selective about what gets your attention, you waste your peak focus hours on mediocre work. This is the principle that separates high achievers from everyone else. Radical selectivity about what deserves your focus. When evaluating any task, opportunity, or commitment, rate it from 1 to 100 based on how much it will advance your most important goals. If it's not a 90 or above, then it's an automatic no. Most people say yes to 60 or 70% opportunities because they seem good enough. But this fills up their schedule with mediocre work and leaves no time for the 90% opportunities that would actually transform their life. You want to create a simple filter system. Before saying yes to anything, ask yourself, is this essential for my most important goal? If the answer isn't immediately and obviously yes, decline it. This ensures that your limited focus and energy are reserved for the work that creates exponential results instead of being scattered across dozens of pretty good activities. So now you know what to work on, you know when to work. What's left is to know how to structure your deep work sessions in order to get the maximum out of your day so that you can get 5 times more work in half the time. You do this by leveraging something called ultradian work schedule. You see, your brain doesn't maintain the same level of focus the entire day. It operates in natural 90-minute cycles called ultradian rhythms. Most people fight against these cycles and try to maintain constant focus for 8+ hours, which leads to mental fatigue and diminishing returns. Instead, work with your brain's natural rhythm by structuring your day in 90-minute focus blocks followed by 15 to 20-minute restoration periods. During these focus blocks, eliminate all distractions, work on only one important task, and ride the natural wave of your brain's attention cycle. And during your restoration breaks, do something that genuinely restores your mental energy. For example, take a walk outside, do some light stretching, practice deep breathing, or simply sit quietly. And avoid anything stimulating like social media or news. This approach is actually more productive than trying to maintain constant focus for the entire day. You'll accomplish more in 4 90-minute focus blocks than what you will do in 8 hours of low-quality scattered attention. And now that you know the basics of how to improve your focus, you need to take the next step and turn that focus into a competitive advantage. And there's a strategy I've started doing recently that has allowed me to get more work done in 4 hours than most people get done in an entire week. So watch this video next where I show you what it is, how it works, and how you can use it to outwork 99% of people while working half the hours.